Georgia picks up a edge defender from Army, Ela Modozie, coming to the Bulldogs in the transfer portal. I'm Dayne Young. That's Brent Rollins. We do Film Don't Lie from UGAsports.com. In the season, that means reviewing Georgia games the day after they happen and showing to you some of the things maybe you didn't see and just kind of highlighting some of the most important trends that we spot for the Georgia Bulldogs in the season. In the offseason, Brent, that means learning about some of the players that are joining the roster. There was a trio of guys on Easter Sunday joining UGA. And if you're looking for Josh McCray, we have another video for the Illinois running back. Not as much to show with the defensive lineman from Miami. So
yeah,
he played in a couple of games, got a few snaps, a couple tackles. Not a lot to see there. That's going to be a depth piece for future. I don't think that's the case necessarily for Elo here, Brent, because I think he can be a contributor on this team. I'm excited to watch this with you.
Very much so. Will play right away in some capacity. He's going to get snaps. And the reason is, let me look the list of people who are sort of classified and got snaps as an edge defender. So that was JJA, Q Johnson, Gabe Harris, Mpemba, Damon Wilson, Michael Williams, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, and Chaz Chambliss. So 8 guys. What is the sort of looking at that? 1, 2,
Most of them are
3, 4, 5. Gandhi, whether that be in the portal or off to the NFL, all the ones that played, only Gabe Harris is the only one who played over 100 snaps since back. Q Johnson and JJA played a total of 73 snaps. Elo played 527 snaps a year ago. Like, at minimum, you're getting a guy who's experienced, obviously not necessarily at the Power 4 and or SEC level, but you're getting someone you can work with. And I think this, while there's twofold with a lot of these moves late in the portal for them, it's, hey, I've gone through spring and I see these young guys and I like them. Pollock mentioned that on the other podcast. Hey, I like them. I see the talent. I see the upside, but not ready to consistently give me production. All right. So what do I need to get? I need to get somebody with experience that I can potentially trust. Now, granted, you don't know these guys and haven't coached these individuals, but you see them on tape and you see what you think you're getting because you're seeing it against sort of like competition in a way. And this is one to me. But as much as Elo can give this year snaps, I look to see what he can be the following year in 2026, because there is so many things. He's a very solid player and well-graded player from PFF, but so many things he can get better at almost instantly, I think.
If you were asking me to pick Georgia's 2026 SEC Media Days representatives, I'd say he's got a chance. Say he's got a chance.
I mean, that's the beautiful part about it. It's such an interesting dynamic with players from the service academies, because obviously it's once they hit the 2-year mark, they have to make that commitment type thing versus being out of it. So he's 2 years there and then says, all right, I got a chance to play football, so I'm going to go do that. I mean, I think he was recruited. He was like 190 when he got there, or even some receiver in his background. So you're getting a kid that is developing and getting better, potentially getting better and better each and every year. And like Greg says in the chat, fire, passion, and energy is probably not something you have to worry too much about with Elo Modozie.
And I wonder, with all transfers, I said this about Josh McCray too, how does Georgia find a guy? And a lot of times it's very simple, where the Miami transfer, that's someone Trey Scott's talked to in recruiting for a while. Cool. Sometimes it's an assistant that had a previous relationship. We've seen that from USC. Cool. This one, Brent, and maybe there are other things, I don't know for sure. I haven't asked someone specifically. But in the data, in the research that you do when you're scouting teams, this had to be one of those things. They're like, who's that guy? Because Georgia was scouting Notre Dame, foreseeing a matchup with Notre Dame. That's why you pay all these analysts to do their thing. And then this dude gets in a goal line situation against Notre Dame, and look at this play that he makes. I guess I should circle him here so you know where to look. This is him right there.
Yep. And the most interesting part about this was the play before on this, because I think this, if I'm not mistaken, this was second down. And the play before, they did the exact same thing and got a yard or two So they just did the same thing quick again, and he played it well and made the play. And I think first and foremost, writing in terms of notes, I've got 5 sort of different notes with him. He's not afraid to strike in the run game. Now, the technique with which he does that and the things that he does and how he can get a whole lot better at it, yes. But hey, I'm dodging blocks. He's not a block dodger. He attacks head on with as much effort as he can, because I think he's still growing, and I could see him over the summer adding 5 to 10 pounds, especially in the lower body. But yeah, not afraid to strike in the run game. And great.
I mean, if anything, he plays a little high, I think, and a really good tackle can keep him upright and keep him off balance. And so I think that's where some of this can be refined. But yeah, he's going to play for Georgia, and I think being an asset both in run and pass rush. We'll see both of those as we continue here.
So the point you just made is one that is very valid, and I think we have at least one, maybe 2 in here. He plays too high consistently. Like, you don't see like the lean that he has right there from his positional stance. He plays with a much more upright when he's there. But like effort in terms of, yes, he's gonna. But the biggest thing I think showing this is the coverage. Is Army actually dropped him into coverage like 93 snaps. And by the way, Army's defense is very similar structurally to Georgia's. Not necessarily how he plays, and he's kind of a lot of times the jack position. But what's interesting about it, so 93 snaps into coverage. The most that any Georgia edge defender has done in like last 7 years is 71, and that was Nolan Smith in 2021 when they played 15 games. So he was way into coverage more so at Army than he likely will be at Georgia too.
Yeah, I wanted to show that one just to show him chasing down from that position, just to show
there's a lot of other effort plays, by the way, and there's like one thing at the very end we're going to show is very much an effort thing. So
physically, when you just look at him, he stands out on Army's defense. Like
NFL body type, 6'3", 245, kind of lean, but like I said, some speed off the edge there, straight line speed, and one that, and a lot of it is, okay, how are you coached to play? Like in this instance, he comes sort of straight at the mesh point, attacks, versus what you would see from a lot of times Georgia. You'd see them being unblocked as a sort of surf player where they're staying at the line of scrimmage, playing a little bit of both run and pass versus, going crazy at the QB. But there's definite athleticism there. That's the thing. And
when you mentioned the strike, you see a bit of that here of like making sure you get the hit. You're there. Like at that point, you're not going to get called for hitting the quarterback. So you get your lick in there.
Yep.
Let's show against Tulane. This was in the conference championship. I think people forget Army won the conference championship over Tulane.
Yeah. They played 14? They played 14 games. And this is as much, chasing down from the back, effort, constant, not give up, that kind of thing. You see that consistently. You see effort plays, not giving up on plays, consistently chasing. Those are things that show up on tape where it's like, okay, versus a guy who it's like, oh, the play's over there. That's not really my world. No, he keeps fighting, keeps coming.
Keeps his head in the game for sure.
I do think now, I will say, you picked out, I think, the absolute best pass rush move that he had the entirety. There was one sort of hand usage and dip and rip, because I watched full games of Tulane, the Notre Dame game, and then who did they play in the bowl game? I forget who it was in the bowl. Louisiana Tech in the bowl game. So I watched those 3 games kind of toward the end of the year, and he had one where he tried to sort of that NFL move, hit, and then you dip and lower your shoulder in, and he got pushed down by the tackle. Not enough strength in the lower half. But the receiver background, what does this look like if you're a wide receiver? Watch him at the top of the screen. Boom. quick little move. He tried the same move on the right tackle, and the right tackle kind of got him when he dipped inside and he couldn't get off of him. But here, quick enough to beat the left tackle. That's as good as it gets. And there's an element of watching him pass rush, though, where consistently the get off, how quick he is off the football, is not what it should be.
Yeah.
And especially as a rusher, by the way, especially as a rusher. But when you can win with some quickness like that, and granted, obviously this is Tulane's left tackle, it's not, you're not playing, but still Tulane's a very solid football team. But still, this was one. Now looking at just sort of new numbers, 37 total QB pressures in on 236 pass rush snaps, at least 2 pressures in like I think it was 13 of the 14 games that they had. So he is somebody who has shown production at that position.
And again, I'll mention, like, even that play, you saw he plays pretty upright even when he gets around. Like, this is not a lot of dipping the shoulder, getting down low. I almost wonder, Brent, if the strides that we saw Chaz Chambliss make in the last 2 years, a lot of that, and I think Chaz is stronger for sure, but in terms of just having some more in your bag at the edge position and being more of a consistent threat over there, if Elo can gain some of what Chaz has in the last 2 years, like, I think he's legitimately an NFL prospect.
Well, it's one. My guess is his first thing, and what they're going to get him to do as much as anything early, is be consistent to be able to play on first and second down, be able to play the run and play that position on first and second down. So that's a lot of different things from a technique standpoint. That's bend, that's hand usage, that's how playing lower. That's not, he oftentimes, like when he's the free unblocked player, he takes too much of a sort of north-south versus staying even with the line of scrimmage. He creates sort of natural holes. So there's a lot of little things like that they can do very quickly to get him to sort of SEC level run defender. That plus, again, adding strength and some pounds in the lower half. But it's okay, you have an athlete that maybe in 2 years, in 2026, is a leader in that room, and potentially, like you said, develops as a pass rusher even more so, and you've got like a really good player.
I am not going to show Army football without showing a play from Army Navy.
There you go.
Like that's required.
As you should. Closing speed.
Closing speed almost sets up a turnover there. And you mentioned he kind of checks on the back and then is decisive.
Dips through, and that's, what do you want to see? You just want to see some level of, ability. And like in terms of straight line speed, the bend is not quite what I thought it would be, but uses his hands well, not afraid to strike, but there's so much room for improvement. And this, by the way, when you talk about what can you bring to the table instantly as a special teams player, he was one of the highest graded special teams player in the country. Multiple blocks, I think it was. He had at least this one, but I think he had another one too.
Yeah, I mentioned that goal line play that he stopped Notre Dame down from scoring a touchdown there. Perhaps this is what Georgia saw and was like, hey, at 35-7, if we're getting this kind of effort, special teams near and dear to Kirby Smart's heart.
When you watch him run and look at his body and how he moves, not quite as explosive, but especially given the fact that he wears number 18, it's very Chris Cole-like.
Yeah.
In a way, but he's a little bit bigger, and I think he's going to continue to get a little bit bigger. And that's where I think I see his, while some might look at him as a pass rusher, I initially see him more so as somebody who gives them an experienced physical presence, almost in the Chaz Chambliss role on first and second down, unless he shows that, hey, I have way more in the bag as a pass rusher. Because I didn't see enough against quality tackles to say he's going to come here and be like, he's not Gabe Harris right now. Gabe Harris to me is already a way better pass rusher.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see Gabe, the combo of in the third down package where Jalen Walker would go to the edge. Like that's going to be Chris Cole and Justin Williams this year. in addition to Gabe Harris and one of the interior guys, maybe Q Johnson, if it potentially as the other edge guy. But you got more. You've added experience to the room. You've added somebody who's played, for the most part, big time college football. You needed it. That room needed experience. And you've got Isaiah Gibson as a true freshman. You've got some others that are there. You saw him in the spring. All right, okay, I like the talent. I like where it's getting, but it's not ready. I need somebody who's ready to play.
Fall camp will be very intriguing for Elo because we won't see him until when Georgia plays Marshall. But I have to imagine he will have every opportunity to make a statement in those fall practices and have incentive to do so, by the way, of this will be the best competition that he's ever faced in terms of tackles in Monroe Freeling and Ernest Green. What does he do against those guys? What does he do when Lawson Lucky is the one that's blocking him in practice? Because even if he doesn't show a whole lot in games, if in practice on his tape, he can show that he can hang with those guys, that'll be enough to get him a look from NFL teams and get him like more trust from Georgia coaches.
The upside, I think, with this is just it's a great take from that perspective alone, because I watched 3 games and I'm like, that could be better, that could be better, that could be better, and you fix these little details and you have yourself a quality football player who has potential to give you more. But the one thing for me with, and the fire, passion, and energy, you keep hearing that all spring. I doubt this is going to be an issue with him. And also, if they say, hey, look, I need you to work on X, Y, Z, I'd say somebody who went to the Army for 2 years and was at the Army for 2 years is going to go do exactly as you tell them to do in preparation for the fall.
Combining the trio of second wave of portal guys that Georgia got. And I think among the 3 of those, I think Elo is probably the most high impact of the 3. McCray, fine, we'll see. Combine that
given the combination, by the way, given the fact that you already have Frazier in that room versus what you have in the edge room, I think you're right.
Then you start looking at the earlier transfers that Georgia got this year with the Branch brothers, Zachariah in particular, Noah Thomas, who I think there's a chance Noah Thomas is the highest impact transfer on this roster.
Could be, yeah. Especially when you look at big plays.
Yeah, big plays down the field. Maybe the quarterback determines that in some cases, but the way that they retooled the receiver room, which they've been trying to do in the portal for years. I mean, that's the majority. Yes. When you think of where does Georgia use the portal most, it's a wide receiver, or at least it has been in recent years. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think if you're a good receiver, you can probably learn that a bit faster than you can some of the other positions that take a while to get in there.
And we love the draft. And another reason is you might have, 13 guys, 12, 13 guys. I mean, it depends on who finds himself in like round 6 or 7, because there's a lot of those. But you potentially are going to have 2 top 15 picks, 3 first-round picks come off your defense. Like, you lost a lot of dudes.
Well, and Georgia would prefer to keep the dudes. And I made the point on our Easter show breaking this down of Georgia probably would have preferred to keep, injury, we'll see, but would Georgia have gone and gotten Josh McCray if Branson Robinson sticks around? We don't know. But Branson didn't stick around, so they thought they may need a running back. Yep. Same thing here. You get a loss to Missouri. Maybe you go pull someone to fill what would have been some of the snaps in that spot. Couple more days here in the portal, so we'll see if Georgia loses anyone else. We'll see if Georgia adds anyone else. I think at this point, and that's even with the case with these 3, I don't think there's going to be a super high impact person, not someone that's going to be the difference in winning a championship, but there's a lot of depth pieces here that Georgia, I think, has done in a smart way to retool the roster. We'll see what happens in the fall with these guys, but in terms of Elo, I'm very excited what Georgia got in him. This seems like one of the better transfer prospects that I've seen Georgia pull in recent years.
And the other one that I think people are obviously keeping an eye on is the Atkinson kid from UNC, given the position that he plays. I just don't think he ends up at Georgia.
I agree.
Just a personal opinion. No Brent, inside knowledge there.
I've missed you, buddy. This is fun.
It's been get fun. Back always fun.
Yeah.
It's like
we'll do like an NFL draft recap or something.
Oh yeah, I think we definitely need to do that, because this is a starter draft. And I think if you're not going to draft, especially in the fifth, sixth, seventh round. If you're not going to draft super talent, like guys that are just athletic freaks, and I don't think there's a ton of those that are actual football players in this draft. Go get guys that have played and played at a high level. That's Dan Jackson. That's Dylan Fairchild. That's Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. Like, there's a long list of Georgia guys that I think find themselves into the second part of the draft that you didn't necessarily think might get drafted.
Malachi Starks feels like a Baltimore Raven. There you go. I got you one.
All right, so let's do that. Since we got 3 potential first round picks. I know we always have that fun. That is a fun game. Starks feels like a I agree. By the way, Starks feels. You know why Starks feels like a Raven? Because the Ravens don't worry about testing numbers and they just draft good players. And Starks will fall, I think, a little bit because of his testing numbers, and then they'll be like, all right, we'll take this really good player who on the field and that kind of those numbers plays well. Who does Jalen Walker feel like?
I mean, everyone's saying Panthers. I'm going to go Commanders.
That's much later in the first round, by the way.
I'm just like the game, Brent. If you remember, I know we're rusty here. It's just You say the player. What helmet do you imagine them wearing? What does it feel like they fit in when you imagine their NFL future? And maybe Panthers. If you're asking me to pick a spot, yeah, I think he's going earlier. I think he's a top 10 prospect. But if you're just playing the game, Commanders.
Yeah, I think he'd look good in Detroit too, but that's obviously much later in round.
Maybe one of them trade up for him. You never know.
Does he go before Michael Williams?
Absolutely, 100%. I don't think Michael Williams should be a first round pick, but NFL is going to disagree with me.
So I'm actually in that realm where, even with Jalen Walker, unless he is definitively Micah Parsons, who you can play at both linebacker and edge, and you get elite play in both spots, I don't think he's worth a top 10 pick.
I will not stand for the Jalen shade, and we're going to end our.
It's not shade though. It's not shade.
I know
because he's just, and it's something we pointed out all season on Film the Line. He's just not great as an instinctual linebacker player. He's great as a space and great athlete, go run, go see ball, get ball, that kind of stuff. But in terms of just being an instinctual linebacker, he's not Micah Parsons. He's not Micah Parsons in that realm. Now, if you can play on the edge consistently, down in and down out, and be really good at that, then yes, he is worth a top 10 pick. But if someone said they drafted him, said, hey, we're going to play him a lot like Micah Parsons in his rookie year, and we're going to play him both at linebacker and edge, that's not worth a top 10 pick, I don't think.
This has proven that we will need to be doing a UGA-centric NFL draft recap because we have a lot of pent-up takes that we haven't gotten out here on YouTube. We'll make that happen. Thanks for watching, everyone. This has been what George is getting in Transfer Edge. Elo Modozie from Army. We'll see you next time on Film Don't Lie.